Hey, on YouTube, we are writing Orchestral Synthwave. My name is Dan. Let's do this. Let's jump right into Cubase over here, and I'm using Cubase 10, my DAW of choice. And let's see what we have so far. Let's give this song a listen. Let's see where we're at. If I remember correctly, we just brought back the main theme at the end. So let's see how it sounds, and let me know if it's coming through right. So that is what we have so far. Welcome, that one guitar guy. Cheers, mate. Yeah, I was hoping to pop into Bear's stream as well as a sort of before I go into mine, like to get ready. I hope he's fine too. Might just be having a busy day or something. I hope he's doing okay. Yeah. Might just be again, might just be a busy Saturday or something. But how are you doing? And how is the song sounding? There are a couple of things I'd like to do. First of all, let's talk a little bit about side chaining. Right, so here's something about side chaining. So there's something I experimented with in the song I made earlier this morning. And maybe we'll show that off on stream a bit later as well. But the idea is that I would really like to have the synths and the orchestra sort of make a bit more room. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Thank you. So nice. I'd really like these to kind of pump and make a bit more room for the kick and the snare because they're sounding kind of weak. And let's show that off. So for synths, I'm gonna put in a compressor over here, and I'm just gonna use the stock one in Cubase. I'm gonna set it to sidechain mode over here. Now it can take actually an input. We're gonna mess around with these controls in just a bit. I would really like to send the kick and the snare to this compressor, and I can show you what that's doing and how that's working. So for the kick sum, I'm going to send that to the sidechain over here on the synths, and the snare sum, I'm going to send that to the well, yeah, that working guitar guy. It's totally legit. But I don't know. You know, life happens, and sometimes you've just got like a super busy day or some personal stuff that you got to deal with. I hope he's fine. I think he is. He'll probably get back to you or something if when he has a bit of time. I hope. But I'm definitely sending out all the good vibes and the positive vibes to him, and I hope he's super fine as well. Just busy maybe. So we've set that up. We've sent the kick and the snare to our compressor over here, and let's see what that's doing. Let's find a bit with some more synths. The problem is that I am actually sending my bass to my synths as well, but usually I'm keeping the bass out of the way of the kick and the snare, so it should be fine. Let's see over here. We'll probably hear it more prominently in the section where we have only synths, so okay. And you can see over here the gain reduction that's happening and how it's reacting to the kick and the snare. And this is only activating when the kick and snare is actually doing anything. That's what sidechaining basically does. So it activates an effect only when it receives an input, right? So I want the attack to be super on point. I want the release to be super quick. The hold will be fine. And I'm going to turn this down a little bit because I want the synths to pump a bit more than I would like the orchestra to pump. And let's see how much gain reduction that's doing. And let's see what that's doing. And I'll just mute the bass because that's kind of faking it a little bit. Let's turn off the bass and let's just hear what the synths are doing. And you can hear how the kick and the snare have a bit more room to breathe now. They're a bit more up front, which is super great. Now, another thing that I would really like to do is do the kind of the same thing on the strings and the brass. So let's find this bit here where the orchestra really starts to swell and gets really super big. you can hear that the kick and the snare are not really cutting through the mix as I'd like them to cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another compressor, and I'm putting it at the end just so that it's out of the way of the other effects, and it's happening right at the tail end of this. And I'm just going to sort of turn down the attack and the release, and we're only ducking like 2 decibels for each decibel that is over the threshold. So that is set up. Let us send the kick and the snare to this bit here, and let's just go down here to our side. Oh, and let's set it to sidechain mode first of all. Right, let's go down here to our sidechains, strings, turn it on, and strings, turn it on. Now, when it comes to strings and brass and orchestral elements, we don't want their processing to be super obvious, because we still kind of want to have a bit of a human element to them. But so our gain reduction, we are aiming it to be not super huge, not like 5 to 7 decibels like it's on the synths, but something like 3, around 3, let's see. That is super cool. That is going to work, but we are getting a lot of stuff from our brass over here, and we're going to create another compressor over here. Set it to sidechain mode. It's set to read for some reason, but we shouldn't have any automation on it. Let's again set our release super fast. And I'm setting the release super fast because I want it to pump, right? The attack super fast, and because I want it to react immediately once the kick and the snare is hitting. And then we'll continue sort of writing this piece after we get that done. And then we'll probably get into some mixing. Let's see. Wonder if I can mix it in this project without having to go in another one, but we'll see. Right, let's see what that's doing over here. Let's go to compressor. That is gonna be good. Now I need to do some more cleanup work just to get us settled over here and to kind of drive this master louder a little bit. I would really like it to be way more in your face and sort of a tad louder. So I'm just gonna go -1 over here. And so what do we have going on over here? So we've got that cutting out over there. There are some other sort of tricks that I'd like to do. Let's clean up some of this reverb. So our reverb is just gonna sort of hang out. And I think instead of using more effects, we're just gonna go to our EQ over here, and we're just gonna clean up with some high passes, the extreme low end that we don't want building up and sort of ruining our master chain, right? Because we talked a little bit about this in our past streams. Let's do that. Oh, let's get our bass in. Something was missing. I wasn't realizing. Check out our, so what are we doing over here? So we are cutting in stereo. Okay. So this cut over here, I'm gonna shift that over to a mid-side approach. So the mid is cutting over here, which is fine, but for the sides, I'm gonna cut in a bit more of that low end because I want the low end to be as mono as possible, right? So I'm gonna set this to a cut, set it a bit more aggressively, and from the sides, we are going to take out quite a bit more low end. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, and let's check out if we have some more content down in the low end that is sort of messing up our mastering. Over here, where is my multiband? And there's another thing I would really like to do. So we've got this frequency thing going on, which is super cool. Okay, then we've got our compressor over here, and I think I'm gonna switch this over to the, where are you? This is the gray, and I think I'm gonna switch this out actually for the red. I use this quite nicely actually in my song this morning, and I'm gonna hit CLA Rock Drive and check this out now. This one. You see how it's sort of responding a bit more nicely to the to all of the content and the snare and the kick and all of that. Okay. Another thing I would really like to do is, so I'm going to move the FGX down a little bit, the imager, and there's another thing I'd really like to do, which is sort of tame a bit more before we hit that compressor, right? I'm going to go with a multi-band compressor, and this way we can kind of solo each frequency out. So let's see how our low end is sounding. Let's see what content we have down there, if we have anything that shouldn't be there. We definitely have some string content that is down there. Unfortunately, we will probably have to cut that a little bit. So if we go to our strings over here, we've got some frequency stuff. And again, I would really like to turn this into a mid side, and for the mid, I'll be more aggressive with cutting out the low content, while for the side, we won't be taking out that much, but we will be taking out some. Because again, I want the mid channel to just be, for the low end, to just be sort of kick and bass, right? So from the sides, we will sort of match this curve over here to just clean up some stuff, and for the mids, we'll be more aggressive. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, you see how if you don't have a sub or don't have like super hi-fi headphones or anything, you'll probably not hear it. But trust me when I say that now in the middle, I can't really hear the sort of arpeggios or the low what do you call it? The low strings, the celli and the contras. Another thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use another high pass. This one just to be safe, just super low content. I would really like that to not be so present. Okay. Okay, and I'm gonna use this multi-band as sort of all-purpose sort of flattening compressor. I don't want it to affect the sound too much. I'm gonna go with a fast release again. And fast attack, fast release. Maybe just give it a little bit of breath so that the transients poke through. And there's another plugin that we're going to check out called Transient Shaper from Kilohertz, which I just realized I had, which is amazing because that plugin is exactly what I needed. It's basically, there's a SPL plugin called something like Transient Designer or something. It's basically that. It's super awesome. And we're going to make our kick and our snares be super awesome. You're going to see. Let's just see. Let's just set this compressor. So for the low end, I just want to see it sort of touching a little bit the extreme content that is super loud. That's doing this sort of flattening compressor, so when it's not on, everything is sort of bouncing a little bit more than it should, right? Now if I turn these two compressors off, we can kind of hear that it's not super aggressive, it's not super loud, it's not, and there are a lot of frequencies kind of jumping around all over the place. If we activate them, and this is another thing. Don't forget to turn off when you're using tape machines, especially on the master channel or on your mix bus or whatever. Don't forget to turn off this, like to turn this noise reduction way down, because it's going to generate some noise that you're not going to like on your entire mix, and that's definitely not what we want to happen. Right. The next thing is we have our mix rack over here. Yeah, and you see I'm hitting my mix bus over here a bit too much. So we are going to set this to 0. We are going to turn down our input over here, and that should clean up our sound quite substantially. The thickness and the shimmer, I'm gonna turn down a little bit more. I don't want these to be pinned. But since we added more and more instruments and turned everything louder, that's what's happening, and that's definitely not what I want. The ozone imager is working okay. Now let's see what our compressor is doing over here, our sort of final mastering compressor. Okay, Okay, cool. And how loud are we right now? So if I turn down the gain over here, how loud are we? Like, because this will tell me how much I can push it into the master. Yeah, you can see that all the cleanup work that we did yielded minus 8 dB. Just cleaning up some low-end stuff, making sure that there's room for the kick and the snare and stuff like that. Now, before I make this super aggressive and turn back the gain, I'm gonna turn this a bit louder for me as well. I hope it's still coming through pretty loud for you guys, but I want to check out the transient designer on my my kick and my snare. So I'm gonna go to my kick sum, and I just want to make sure that our levels are proper over here. So let's see our kick and our snare. What levels are they coming in at? Decent. Now, what is this frequency doing? We're just clearing out some space. And again, I want to turn this into... Oh, it's mono. Never mind. Another thing I'd like to do is I'd like to... And there you are, the transient shaper. And let's see what this is doing. So we've got an attack, a pump, and a sustain. And you can kind of see on the curve over here what each is doing. So the attack will be the initial hit of the transient. The pump will be a sort of ducking effect that happens after the transient so that the transient is perceived to be louder. And the sustain is the sort of tail. And let's see. And this transient shaper, actually, I like it to be... Wait, we don't have... What are we using for distortion? We're using the preamp over here. Are we not? Yes, we are. Okay. Fine. I like that to be kind of the first thing, even before going into the frequency over here. And we are cleaning quite a bit out of it. Maybe we'll pull that back a little bit. Let's see how our kick sounds. So... Okay, so our kick is now should be quite substantially louder, and we added in some sub-harmonic frequency as well down here. And I'll just turn off the transient shaper, and you can see how much that is doing to the sound. Yeah, you can sort of feel the punch a bit more from that kick. It's still lacking a bit of body because I think this sort of distortion is not doing as much as I would like it to do. So I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to take it out of the chain, and I'm going to use some kilohertz distortion, some saturation, just to just so that we can give it more body. Now there is another plugin I got, which is G-Clip, which is amazing as well. Let's soft clip it. Let's oversample it, and let's see if that does anything. Now, I don't remember if this clipping is sort of a mixing knob or not. Let's just see what it does. Ooh! Oh, this is how much to cut? Ooh, I really like it like that, like super distorted. Hold on. I'm liking that. I gotta say, I gotta be honest, I'm liking that. Okay, so what happens if I just go in, I turn off this distortion over here as well, and I bring in that transient designer as well as the... What is the multiband doing over here? Oh, it's just taming a bit of a low end because it's too much. Okay, and the clipper over here as well. So the virtual mix track is going to go up here and you go up here. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. I can jam to this. It's too distorted though, so we're gonna... Okay, there's one other thing I like to do. I noticed that I feel like I have too much high-end content, and I feel like my snare is actually too bright. So if there is such a thing, for me it is. And let's just see how we're peaking and how we're sounding right now with these levels, and just make sure that our kick and our snare are sort of sitting properly around the same level. You see how clipping like super helps your kick and snare? I'm digging this. Probably next week I won't like it and I'll change it again, but for right now, I think our kick and our snare are super aggressive. They're super in your face now. They're not just hanging back. We're not just chilling. We are smashing. We can actually sort of check this if we compare it to our tom fill over here. Which is what we want, though. Sure, if this was a more breezy sort of summertime tune, we would have gone with a much cleaner kick and snare. But since we're trying to go for that cyberpunk feel, we really wanted to sort of punch you through the speakers, right? And let's see how that sounds in the sort of industrial bit. I don't like that fill now. I think I did it like this instead of having a sort of like 16th note fill for some reason. But now I'm thinking, why not have it like this? And I'm just going to turn you down. I dig it. This is one of the rules that I used in metal a lot. Clip your drums. And I completely forgot about it for some reason. Probably because I haven't done metal in quite a while. And, dude, it's super useful for everything. And you can see that we're... Okay, so we're peaking at minus 4.7. Why is that? So when we're over here, we're peaking a lot because I haven't processed these impacts properly, right? Hold on. Okay, so it's this reverb is sort of occupying a lot of space, and what I'd like to do something kooky with it. Let's see. So I downloaded another free, and again, like the G clip is super free. It's you can check it out right now. Now I have some gain over here going. It's probably a bit excessive. I have a funny feeling, and this is. So if this is just a reverb chain, why isn't this set to mix 100%? And I can turn down the feedback a little bit, because this is supposed to be blended with the main sounds, right? And another thing I like to do, I downloaded from the company that made G Clip, a GLFO, actually. And I wonder if this does anything cool. Let's hear it on this part where we've got a lot of ringing notes. I think this will make more space for the kick and the snare. Let's hear it out. And another thing that I found out today while messing around, and you can see that LFO going and pumping, so it still gives me that reverb, right? Sort of blended in with all the synths. They don't sound wet. I'm sorry, they don't sound dry. They still sound sort of super wet. And if I just go and solo these, but the weird thing, so when you solo it out, it sounds super weird, but when you just listen to it in context, it sounds... Well, yeah, I can kind of hear it, though. It is a tad annoying. Okay. Can we do it... sort of mix a little bit and make it run around defaults. We made it a bit more subtle. That's usually how it goes with effects. You sort of do them like on full blast, and then you listen to them and you're like, it's a bit much. I'll take it down a notch. And this way, it's kind of, you're still getting that pumping feeling, but it's a bit more subtle, and I'm still getting that full lush reverb. I also cut a lot of the low end so that it doesn't mess with my kick and my snare and my bass. And there was we started out from somewhere and we got here to these synths. We started out from over here. I wanted to see why am I peaking at sort of minus 4.5. It was because of the toms. They are super loud, and I wanted them super loud last time, but now they're just they're jumping a bit too much. And I can actually, hold on just a sec, I can clip the toms a little bit as well. And so I'm using distortion, parallel distortion on them, but I can clip them. It might be too much though. Let's see how they sound with some parallel distortion, some full-on distortion as well. And we're gonna soft clip them just a little bit. Okay, so I think I know what the issue is. The kilohertz parallel distortion is too much, really. We just need to take that down a notch, and I'm gonna use the G-clip. Yeah, that sounds a bit cleaner. It's a bit more tame. I think we can work with that. Now then, are we still peaking like super high though? And I just realized you guys are not seeing anything I'm looking at down here in the bottom right corner. Let me pop this meter out. Can I pop it to the... No, I cannot. I can move my face. Hold on, let me just move myself to the other side. Hey, I'm over here now. I'm over here. Anyway, so down here in Cubase, you've got a meter, right? And it's a sort of mastering meter. And you can kind of see your RMS and your peak volume in decibels, right? If you click it, it resets. You can see it's super down right now. And your maximum RMS is basically... So RMS is sort of... Again, and I'm not the most technical person, but RMS is basically... what do you call it? Perceived loudness, right? So if it's perceived loudness, it's not necessarily how many decibels you have, but just how the listener, like how loud is it for the listener. Usually in commercial records, when we're talking like big pop hits or rock or metal or stuff like that, you kind of aim for somewhere around -8 to -7. I think Death Magnetic by Metallica is at -6 or something like that. It's like super bloody loud. So basically, if you distort a lot of stuff, if you're clipping a lot of stuff, if you're gaining like super much, then you will most likely have a very, very high RMS. Now, currently, we're sitting at about -20, which is super okay because we're not applying any limiting after the fact or any sort of gain at the end before limiting. And our peak decibels are around -8, which is usually what I'm comfortable with when mastering. I like to have around -8 decibels and around -20 RMS. So we're super cool. Now what this allows me to do is when I go to my mastering, and maybe I should just stick to the left side. I'm just now thinking. I'm just now realizing. Usually on the left side I'm doing stuff with like plugins or stuff like that. I don't know. I'll just try to keep the mixer on this side and do the And if I'm doing something, I'll try to do it up here. Let's test out the left camera. Like 45 minutes into this video on YouTube and an hour into this stream, right? What I would like to do now, just before we sort of move on and continue writing, is I would very much enjoy to bump up the volume. So safety first. Let's turn down our volume over here, and turn down your volume at home as well a little bit. Just be careful when you're listening to this that it might get loud. So let's do this. I gave you a fair warning, okay? You see, when I'm playing around with this knob, then I'm boosting the volume, I'm boosting the gain, right? It's gonna get super bloody loud, and we want to really push it until we hear it breaking, until we hear distortion. One cool way of doing this without actually blowing up your speakers, but still keep your volume low for now, is hitting this constant gain monitoring, which basically what it's going to do is it's going to keep your volume at a normal level, at a sort of fixed level. You can bump up the gain as much as you like. And we do this in order to listen for issues with like distortion. If it distorts and we keep the volume at a low level, then it won't trick our ears that it's better because it's louder, right? So let's do this. Okay, so what am I hearing? I'm hearing that the snare verb is sort of poking out quite a lot. And the snare verb is a huge part of the sound that that 80s sound. So what we want to do is we want to turn it down a little bit, but not too much. And again, I'm going to sort of activate a high pass over here just to be safe that we're not messing around with anything. And I'm just going to like gently take away some of the subharmonic frequencies, and let's see how that sounds. Right? And you can see that it's a huge part of our snare sound, and indeed it's a huge part of the 80s snare sound, and I do love my snare reverb. Now then, we seem to have a pretty good volume. Another thing I would like to do is, and again, we are still having our constant gain monitoring turned on, right? So our level is still not huge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of solo the low end frequency over here in our multiband and see if anything is clipping like super nastily. Okay? It's good. It's good. Now, okay, seriously though, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna turn down my volume in my headphones. You do the same. This is not a joke. Let's do this. And there you have it, a super aggressive mix and master for your cyberpunk synthwave. Now, I think we are super comfortable to go into actually continuing this song. So I'll just cut the video here for YouTube and we'll be right back.